I wanted to make this video to talk about a problem that I see, especially in like self-help, spirituality, and I feel like this is why a lot of people will avoid religion as well. I think the problem is ego, the human ego. And I'm not saying that we should completely get rid of our egos, because I feel like your ego is part of your personal identity and your desires. And I feel like being human and part of this human expression is that we are meant to live in our desires. However, I think the problem with ego is that when you're not aware of what the ego is doing, the ego can go and create problems in your life. What do I mean by that? Somebody may have sexual desire, and sexual desire is not inherently a bad thing coming from the ego. You want to be satisfied in this way. But some people will use sexual desire and go out and do something sexually immoral or invade somebody else's boundaries sexually. That's the problem. Or the ego desires money because money will bring things that the ego likes, like fame and renown, and people like, yes, you did a good job. But the problem with the ego is that you get attached to that. It's like, it's fine to want money, but then you get attached to the idea that I need money to feel better about myself. I need this car to feel better about myself. I need to be with this person to feel better about myself. That's the ego. That's the problem. And how does this relate to religion, spirituality? Because in spirituality, there are systems in different religions where someone is in a place of power, such as a pastor. In this place of power, the religion is trying to help you learn how to control the ego and also be able to ascend the ego where you're more in spirit or more in line with God. Because where God exists is completely outside of ego. Where we exist as humans is in ego. But God exists outside of ego. God is really the detachment of the ego. But as a human, I believe we're meant to have a balance of merging and having this relationship with God, but also identifying with our ego as well and realizing I'm still a human with desires. However, I can transcend, I can meditate, I can pray, have these moments where I commune with God. But in a lot of spiritual systems, people are stealing money from the church, using the money in the bad way, judging people that come into a church, judging people that come into a religion, hexing people, casting curses on people, talking bad about people. This is ego being filtered through a religion. You know, like inherently, I think none of the religions, especially the major religions, are bad. And the ones that get talked about the most is like Islam and Christianity. When it comes to Christianity, it's talked about so much because people have been judged, people have been killed, people have been hurt because of what is said in the Bible. Like, if you're gay, basically, you have to ignore these people, disown these people, make them feel bad. Or if this person is transgender or this or that, you have to disown them. That's not God-like. But in the Bible, it reads to not judge. This is something Jesus was teaching, not to judge. He was trying to get people out of that negative part of the ego to not judge. But people still judge. It doesn't make sense. That's because the ego is out of check. We are not meant to judge in that way to make somebody else feel bad and do all that. It's okay to have some type of judgment in life because you need to judge if things are good for you or bad for you. But we get out of line because we take the ego too far, where we judge other people and other things and make them feel bad. But that is something that is so prevalent, and why a lot of people are like, I'm going to just reject this religion. I'm not going to church. I'm not reading this Bible. I'm not being a part of these religions because there's ego here. But that's the human ego being expressed. But if you look at the religion itself, it's lovely things being written. It's like, love people, meditate, pray, and it's like a lot of wisdom within the Bible. Like, we all cannot ignore that. Like, no matter how you feel about the religion itself, there is wisdom in that book. And the wisdom that's in the Bible can also be found in a lot of spiritual systems. Like, people that say that they're spiritual or this or that, the same type of things you'll learn in spirituality are in the book of the Bible. A lot of the things that you'll find, like the laws of the universe, it's found in the Bible. It's found in other texts as well, like Hindu texts. It's found in the Quran. It's found in these things, like the Bhagavad Gita. They're in these things. But We take our human ego and we abuse people, places, and things in ourselves through our ego. The thing that's very interesting is I believe it's the sixth commandment that says, thou shalt not kill. However, killing still happens in the name of the Lord. When you ask these people why they did it, they're like, oh, because God wanted me to purify this person or purify this place. They were impure or they were not holy. Or, I had to attack them. I had to purify this demon that was on them or whatever. But doing that is so dangerous because our human mind, our consciousness, our ego gets so strong that the ego starts to convince us that we're spiritual, that we're hearing it from God. Our ego starts to take on the role of God and then tell us what to do. And then the thing that we're doing is inherently demonic. Murder, killing, harming people, that is inherently what is said to be demonic or evil or negative energy. But when we let our ego be out of hand and it's not in check of what it's supposed to be doing, the function that it has, we act out of line. But the ego is also meant to be there. I feel like so much of spiritual community also on the other end, they're like, oh, you should go through an ego death, completely don't identify as a person. But how are you getting the spiritual lessons, experiencing life, experiencing it firsthand if you don't have an ego? Because you need to have a personality and be able to, live as a human, as a person, have likes and dislikes and wants and goals and things like that. I think we're meant to have that. And I don't think life is completely about leaving the ego. I don't agree with that. I believe it's about getting the ego in check, but also getting what you want with no harm to none, if possible. By any means possible, try not to harm any person, place, or thing if you can help it. Another example of this is just with ourselves. Certain religions or spiritual practices, the way our ego will come out is that we're like, I don't feel good enough. I'll never be like this other person in the church. I'll never be like the other person in this religion or spiritual system. I'm not as powerful as them. I'm not as connected to God as them. I'm not holy. There's something wrong with me. That is the ego making up a story. You keep making up this story based on your religion that you're not good enough or you don't matter. But that is just the ego trying to create this story and make you the victim in life, make you a victim. Instead of this religion or spiritual system empowering you through your own ego, it's actually poisoning you and it's making life worse for you actually. But if we are able to be aware that we have a mind, an ego that is not always serving us in the best way, it's not always protecting us and making us feel confident. Sometimes the ego is making us feel the opposite of confident because the ego is only focused on self. Only focusing on self doesn't mean you always will feel confident. Sometimes the ego will put us in a place of victimhood and we will feel bad and feel like we are underneath other people and there's a hierarchy and other people are above us. We're not all equal. We're not on the same playing field. No, other people are above us and we need to transcend. We need to do better. We need to meditate more, pray more. We need to, get rid of what's impure on the inside and we just feel bad about ourselves. But that's not spiritual evolution. That's not a true spiritual path and peace and love and stuff like that. That's that ego being out of check. So what do we do to get the ego in check? What do we do about that? You have to first be aware of what it all is. You have to be aware of okay, this does not feel good. What I'm doing doesn't feel good, or I'm getting negative consequences doing what I'm doing. Why is that? And you need to also be able to question the way that you're processing and consuming your religion. Why are you judging yourself to be more spiritual, be more happy? You can't go through judgment to get happiness. You can't go through judgment and criticism of yourself to get to a better place all the time. You can't use that. You have to be able to practice acceptance of who you are and what you're doing, but also be able to lovingly make changes as needed. People don't make changes in love. And when you're not making changes in love, I believe that is a problem of the ego. Because if you're truly spiritually tapped in, such as how Jesus was, you would have complete acceptance and love of self first, and definitely love and acceptance of other people as well. But if you're not feeling that love and acceptance, there's something blocking that. And it's a lot of times a belief that is caused by the ego. You have to be able to be aware of what the belief is and how it's showing up for you. The thoughts and beliefs that I'm not good enough, I was born incorrectly, there's something wrong with me. Are these things that you think Jesus or God or your concept of God, of a spiritual, divine, loving being, why would it make you feel that way? Why would it say those things to you? No, these are ideas that you have attached to that have probably come from society, have probably come from somebody else, but now you believe it, and now it's your belief, it's yours. So you need to own up to the fact, this is what I'm thinking, and I'm creating this reality for myself where I'm not good enough for myself. You need to be able to own that. Even though somebody else gave that to you, that idea to you, you need to be able to own that this is me. God is not telling me this. Why would God tell me not to feel good about myself? I need to be able to see, what am I actually doing wrong? What is actually a bad pattern? And what is something that my ego is just telling me is wrong with myself? So you need to be able to go through this exploration process of like, let me tune out what everybody else is telling me. Let me go within myself and be like, okay, is the thing that I'm doing or judging myself for, first of all, why am I judging it? And then second of all, how is judging it helping me? And is this my truth? Is this my authenticity? Or am I trying to be something I'm not? Because not being authentic is also slipping into the toxic ways of the ego. So you have to be authentic to who you are. And if you're trying to force yourself to be better based on that core belief of, no, I'm not good enough, you're never going to feel spiritually tapped in, and you're never going to experience and understand what God actually is and anything good of the universe. So be able to sit with that. Another problem with religion and spirituality when it comes to the ego is that the ego can make you take on a role. So instead of saying I'm not good enough, it'll be like, I am a good person. I'm the best person. I'm an amazing person. And then you take on this role, this mindset that I'm a good person who does good things all the time. Even attaching to that super hard can be a problem, because what happens if you do something that you, by your own standards, deem as bad? So like, let's say you have this concept that a good person always compliments somebody, but you forget to compliment somebody, or you forget to say thank you, or you're having a bad day and you accidentally are mean to somebody. But you go back to your room and you're like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? I hate myself. I'm not a good person right now. I'm not a good person. I need to be a good person. You see how that's a problem? You see how like this concept of this box you're trying to put yourself in of being a good person is not working, because now when you're not being in that standard of what a good person is that you made for yourself, this religion, spirituality has made you to be, now you're a bad person. You're the opposite of what is good. And that means that you don't matter, and that you should be punished, and that you should have a consequence, because you're not a good person, because a good person wouldn't have this consequence. A good person doesn't deserve to be shamed. But now that I've done this bad thing that I don't like, I'm a bad person. I deserve shame. You see how that's a problem? Be able to live in your own authenticity of a person who just is a human. A person who's a human on this spiritual journey that can make mistakes and have flaws. And that the mistakes and the flaws don't define you as a complete person. It's not that simple of labeling somebody good or bad, because you could think somebody's a bad person, but hear their story and have more compassion and understand they're not a bad person. They're a complicated person. All of us are complicated. Really, none of us are good or bad necessarily. All of us have our complications, because we weren't born good or bad. This is something that we, start to have actions as we age, and then other people deem us as good or bad, or we deem ourselves as good as bad. But no one is inherently good or bad, because nobody is inherently born good or bad. So you need to just completely get rid of that concept of good or bad. Understand that you are a complicated human, complex human that has layers to you. So sometimes you can't be perfect, and you will have flaws, and you will make mistakes. And that's okay, because you know what? I'm still a human that's deserving of love. I'm deserving of a good life. I'm deserving of peace. And I forgive myself for whatever I didn't really like that I did. I forgive myself for that. And I'm like, you know what? I am a human. I'm having a human experience, I can't control everything that goes on in my brain. I can't control everything in my environment. I can't always be 100%. in everything I do, and that's fine. I don't want to make this video super long. I just wanted to really go over this concept because I feel like it's so important. And I feel like anybody who's experienced any type of pain related to the religion understands what I'm talking about in this video. Understand that it's not the religion or spirituality all the time. It is the people that are in it that can have an ego that is expressed in a religious, spiritual way that is causing harm. And you may be doing it to yourself as well. So be able to look at your ego, be able to process it and be like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna let you control me. I'm gonna use the ego as a tool to do what I gotta do in my life. So be able to step outside of your ego and just look at it. And don't be mad at it, control it, okay? So yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you watched to the end, I want you to leave a black emoji in the comments. And then, yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. See you later.